the World Health Organization declared the COVID-19 outbreak a global pandemic more than 18 months ago. Since then, daily life across the globe has changed. Practically all aspects of economic and social activity were immediately disrupted by the pandemic, and many aspects still are disrupted. By November 2021, around 5 million people throughout the world had died as a result of COVID-19 infections, and at least 240 million people had been infected. Now, the air transport ecosystem and the airport sector in particular are again among the industries most affected by the COVID health crisis due to the industry's global nature. According to the International Air Transport Association, the global aviation industry is estimated to lose $201 billion between 2020 and 2022 due to the COVID-19 crisis before returning to profitability in 2023. Now, to give us some perspectives in regards to this, we have Godike, an aviation expert, with us here in the studio this morning. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now, let's begin with the recent row between Nigeria and the UAE. Is this a case of COVID-19 or aeropolitics? You know, as an expert that watches and follows all these stories, what's your perspectives?
More of aeropolitics than effect of COVID-19. You would recall that at the time in the history of this nation, we had the awesome Nigeria Airways that was doing really, really very well. At a point, we had about 32 airplanes, and to tell you the truth, this same UAE that is insulting Nigeria today, the very first airplane they used, even to carry their leader, or rather leaders out there, was given to them by Nigeria through the magnanimity of Nigeria Airways. That is an undeniable, piece of history.
Mm-hmm. So how has the mighty fallen?
Oh yeah, yeah. You can say that again.
I mean, how did the giants fall asleep?
You can really say that again.
And we're here now.
I want to admit that if you've been following my platform, I have this aviation club platform on WhatsApp. Yesterday, a whole lot of comments were coming. After they saw my take on this whole thing, going on now. I want to admit that UAE borrowed a whole lot of money to develop, but every dollar they borrowed went into something very useful. We as a people and the nation have also borrowed so much, but you can hardly point your finger at where those kind of, I'm not saying that there are not developments here and there, but the kind of money we're talking about, you can point your finger at where you can say this is where the money is. So we haven't done well, and that's what is attracting this kind of insult, to us. But the real fact of it is, answering your question more directly, it's more of aeropolitics than issue of the coronavirus pandemic. For instance, WHO may declare to the world that 46% of cases you find in Africa, the whole of Africa, not just about Nigeria, and then the open 54% reside in Europe, America, and Asia. Now, where is the moral grounds for anyone to point finger at any nation within Africa to say, I won't let you in? Because when in reality, these other areas have more cases and have more deaths than we do have here. So if there's anybody that should reject anyone, we should be the one rejecting people, not people rejecting us.
Okay, so is it that
Yes.
through the years we have been adopting the wrong, strategies, to protect, our local airlines?
Part of it, but then again, as soon as we went wrong with the national carrier, the Nigeria Airways, we began to slide down the hill, and until we hit
The bottom.
Rock
the bottom, and that's where we seem to be at the moment. Now, but again, the good thing about diplomacy, and then especially the aviation sector, is that any vessel, not even only about airlines, even in shipping, any vessel you hoist your flag, it's your vessel. Even if it doesn't belong to you in all reality, even if you hired or leased it, and you paid money to have it, have your flag go from one point to the other, that vessel answers your name. So what am I saying? If Nigeria allows an airline such as Air Peace, for instance, to fly its flag, it's as good as Nigeria Airways. That is Nigeria there. And so there's no moral grounds for UAE to keep enjoying. How many slots was that the Honorable Minister told us? Was it 20?
21.
21 slots.
21 slots. And then you have a Nigerian airline asking for just 3. And you say, no.
All right, let's talk about,
Yeah.
I want us to really, lay a very good background in terms of how we got here.
Okay.
Talking about the Nigerian Airways, would you say that these are is it a similar kind of politics that, that made the Nigerian Airways went down?
No.
Or what happened?
No,
Maybe just give us a highlight of, how the Nigerian Airways today is nowhere.
Yeah, and as soon as we're done with this, I'll also give you my YouTube channel, because I have over 200 30-minute videos on different topics, researched and published topics on YouTube. You just remember to get the channel, so you go and see the rise and fall of Nigeria Airways. I did a very exhaustive and thorough investigation of what went wrong, and the irony of it is that as a young businessman, way back between the late 80s and the middle 90s, I flew Nigeria Airways fortnightly to London. I did. I was one of their very good customers. As a matter of fact, at Apapa Airport Apapa office, the Nigeria Airways office at Apapa, Lagos, I was known there and nicknamed Must Fly. I'm laying this background for you to understand what went wrong with Nigeria Airways. I was named there Must Fly. Now, what does that mean to you now? Or what did it mean at that time? Anytime I walked in, they looked through the system. They said, "Oh, you can see the entire place was filled. The airplane was filled." But then you find one staff whispering to the other, another whispering to the other, and as they get around, in a moment, they had a ticket for me. As soon as I walk through their door, they say, "Oh, Must Fly is here," and then I'll come. They start milling around and whispering to each other. I'm going to tell you the meaning of those whispering as they went on. And then they found me a ticket, and I traveled. Now, we watched Nigeria Airways go down, even though the world recognized the pilots of Nigeria Airways and did announce it then that they were the best and the safest in the world. Yes,
Remarkable.
Nigeria Airways pilots were said to be the best and the safest in the world.
And these were
That's quite
Nigerians.
remarkable.
Nigerians. And so we now found a situation where sometimes, like one of the incidents that I was also involved in, we went to Heathrow to fly back to Lagos, and they said the plane went for some checks in one of the European countries there, and for 3 days running, no information went out to anyone to say, please don't come to the airport. So people who had flights, for instance, on a Thursday night were there, they didn't fly, and they were littered there in the airport. Those that had Friday to fly, no information went out. That to show you the level of irresponsibility that went on at the time. And then on Saturday, the whole Heathrow airport was littered with stranded Nigerians, and then it was chaotic.
And these people were booked, to travel.
Booked to
despite
travel.
the issues that
Booked
there
to
were.
travel. Now, when eventually I decided to really dig deep into the aviation sector, and I began to research and publish my findings, I found out that Nigeria Airways, 80% of the seats were occupied by staff of the Nigeria Airways who paid nothing to be in there. Government officials who paid nothing to get on the flight. So at every point in time that they made that very expensive trip of moving from Lagos and traveling about 5 hours or thereabout to UK, and spending close to $200,000 in both fueling, cost of the crew, and all the other things that they served in the airplane. An average trip of such a jumbo jet will not be less than $200,000. But 80% of the seats that were raking the cash to offset all those and then look for profit were occupied by non-paying passengers. So I realized that at the time they were singing the song of Must Fly, a young, vibrant businessman that was always flying them, and so they quickly recognized me and gave me a nickname, Must Fly. Okay, so each time I got there and they said, oh, there were no seats, I said, no, I must fly. Find me a seat. I now realized that what they were doing was negotiating with those that were going to go for the weekend shopping for Balogu market. All those stuff they bought from London. For sales like clothing and the rest of them, So they were negotiating amongst themselves who would drop for that weekend.
So that Must Fly will fly.
Just so that Must Fly will fly. And then the money, yes, you won't believe it, but this is real life story, not told by anybody else, but by the man who was involved and who was there, and who, by some providence, is an aviation researcher and publisher today. Now, so the money I paid didn't get into the coffers of Nigeria Airways. It got into the coffers of the individual whose ticket had been passed on to me and changed in the system to my name.
So much corruption.
So that's clear case of corruption here.
Absolutely. Extreme corruption and irresponsibility.
All right, now today we do not have the Nigerian Airways, and the government is making efforts, to revive, that airline.
Yes.
All right, but we are also dealing with having to protect local airline companies like the Air Peace.
Yes, sir.
But again, some are criticizing the government for taking the stand that they did, because they're saying that, look, Nigeria is going to lose a lot of money as a result of this step. But again, on the other side, the government is making efforts to protect, companies like, Air Peace. So we seem to be in a dilemma here, isn't it? What's your thoughts?
I, for once, I stand with the government, and I stand with Honorable Minister Hadi Serika in that decision to call the bluff of not only the UAE but the rest of the countries of the world that are pointing fingers at Nigeria as if coronavirus or the Omicron they are talking about today, has a mansion and resides here in Nigeria.
But you do not consider those who say that Nigeria is going to be more at loss in this case than UAE?
One thing you must find out and you must realize is that there is no country in the world where money is made as easily as is made in Nigeria, especially by foreigners who come here to do business. There is nowhere in the world the kind of money made in Nigeria exists. It doesn't exist anywhere in the world. I mean, in places where you think you have the numbers, say for instance in the United States of America, regulations will not let these business or so-called foreign investors make the kind of money they make in Nigeria. These individuals need us as a people and as a nation more than we need them.
Okay, so are you saying this is not going to, affect the federal government in the sense that there's a tax payable on each flight? So that
no, the point is for UAE that's enjoying 21 frequencies to Nigeria. Nigeria is simply asking, give our airpiece free, and they say no, they won't do that. The business of diplomacy is a business of tit for tat,
right?
Is also a business of if you rob my back, I rob yours. That's the way it works. Now, it is big-headed and extremely arrogant of UAE to look Nigeria in the eyes and say, no, we can't give you 3 slots when you are enjoying 21 in this place. To tell you the truth, I understand if what I saw on my platform that somebody posted is correct, that they have also said that other airlines will not be allowed to bring Nigerians into the UAE. And I am saying, let's call it bluff. They can't sustain that for another month. You know why? In my assessment, UAE is also living on borrowed money. Yes, granted, I want to grant that they invested the money they borrowed thoroughly well, which is what we are seeing in terms of infrastructural development on ground that you can see, and everything and things are going on. But they still need the daily turnover, the weekly turnover, the monthly turnover.
So if they do not reverse their decision, what about Nigerians that have businesses in the UAE, that are now stranded, as a result of this?
Yes,
the losses that they are going to incur as a result of this. Who is going to pay for that?
We are as stranded as they are, and if you ask me, in my opinion, they are more stranded than we are. It's just a matter of what's the word I'm looking for right now? Brazen up for whatever is the outfall of this and calling their bluff. Because you see, if we don't sustain this attitude of calling their bluff, a whole lot of nations will take their own bite at us. A whole lot are standing by to take their own bite. And you're going to see even banana islands, and I mean, what I mean is much smaller nations which economy cannot match just a single state of Lagos State in Nigeria, look us in the eyes and say, hey, you're not coming here except this or that, that sort of a thing. Time comes when a nation makes a decision to pay the price it takes to restore its dignity and restore its economy. Listen, if we were able to say to ourselves, let's even set out to recover looted monies. They're littered everywhere. We see them everywhere, even within Abuja here. You see a lot of.
But don't you consider it as cosmetics? You know, if we within us do not respect our laws, we do not respect ourselves. Corruption, like you mentioned, you know, made the Nigerian airways went down. How would other countries?
That's why we need
have respect for us.
Yes, you are totally correct. It hurts me personally. It hurts me that this is what we have done to ourselves, and this is where we are with the acts of irresponsibility in high places that we need to put an end to, and then pretending that we do not know where the looted funds are. For goodness sake, we know where these monies are. If we want to get them back, we can get them back.
Okay.
Yeah. So I am not subscribing to giving to blackmail and giving to this sort of insult that's coming from UAE.
Okay.
Because people will lose business. There will always be a way to identify those that have been hit hard. If you know what I'm even suggesting, Nigeria should find a way to have people who have invested so much in UAE move their investments out of UAE, and there's a way it can be done. That is a different ball game that I'm not going to tell anyone publicly. If they want to know more, they should consult me.
Right.
And then I tell them how you can sit here, move those investments out, and then sort out the people that are affected internally. It is a turning point for Nigeria.
Right.
We can stand on this turning point and rebuild Nigeria.
Okay, now quickly.
That's my ambition, and that's what I think we should do.
Okay, so quickly before we go,
Yes.
as you've just mentioned, UAE also has stands to lose a lot.
A lot.
About 270 million in a week if this is sustained. But do you think this is going to go on for long?
It depends on UAE, if you ask me. The Honorable Minister Hadi Sirika was clear about his language. We can give you 21 and ask you for a mega 3, and you won't let us have 3. Then, if it's only one that we deserve, then we give you one also. You do only one. And then they come up with the idea of, okay, we're not even doing any. And then other airlines that could take, for instance, British Airways can take you all the way to London, and then from London to UAE, and then South African Airways the same, take you to whatever. They have their main airport in South Africa, and Kenyan, can take you to Nairobi, and then from Nairobi, yes, you fly all the way 4.5 hours backwards, and then another 8 to 9 hours forward. It's more time you spend, isn't it?
Right.
But ultimately, you get to your destination, isn't it? Now, the UAE administration now says no airline in the world is permitted to bring any Nigerian to UAE. That is an overkill. And believe you me, my opinion is that we should call their bluff, stand our ground. They are going to come begging soon. Very honestly.
We hope to see that.
Yes, they are going to come begging soon, because they can't sustain this battle they just started. And to tell you what, they can't win. For us, it's a turning point. If Nigerian government will look inwards, harness what needs to be harnessed, do the diplomatic business that needs to be done, and make contacts with other friends of Nigeria, organize ourselves a little better, take care of those that have been identified to have genuinely suffered from this situation. Believe you me, Nigeria can successfully move all the investments in the UAE out of UAE without visiting UAE.
Okay.
It's a global world we are.
Right.
If anybody wants to know how this can be done, consult me.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so
That's
much.
interesting.
Thank you so much for coming on the program and sharing your perspectives with us. We really appreciate it, and we look forward to having you again.
All right, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.